If there's one way to describe how the 2.7 story quest left me feeling, it is completely bamboozled. Not only have we reached the finale of the rinascita arc, we got to see so many reappearances of our favorite characters. And let's just say this was truly the most epic way to end things. But come on, we have to address the gigantic elephant in the room. Well, actually, the many gigantic elephants in the room. Because Kuro dropped quite a few lore bombs, and these lore bombs are insane callbacks to the literal beginning of the game. In today's video, we are going to be discussing key lore about the Rover, Abby, and the unknown goddess. If you would love an extra dose of comfy lore with Comfy Rainy, make sure to click that lovely little like button, and with that being said, let's get into the video. First, let's talk about the cameo of the unknown goddess. It was definitely a shocking but welcome shock to see her again, but what I found interesting is why, and more specifically, how this cameo happened in the first place. The first ever cutscene featured in the game is the one that includes the unknown goddess and the Rover. The two can be seen floating in space among rocks and debris, and the unknown goddess gives Rover their tacit mark before they are shipped off to the world of Solaris 3. But one thing that I had always noticed during this exchange is that it is as though it is a bittersweet farewell between the two, especially in the expressions the unknown goddess has. Despite her sadness and worry, her final expression appears to be a hopeful and relieved one, almost as though she is certain that the task she has set is within the right hands. But who exactly is this unknown goddess? And what is her true connection to the Rover? In order to potentially understand the connection, we need to look at what Rover's purpose is. During the 2.7 story, when entering the civilization capsule, we get a glimpse of the unknown goddess. And this is in reaction to the civilization capsule detecting Rover's presence. The voice of Imperator refers to Rover as arbiter, and this is where the first instance is mentioned. Now, if you don't know what the first or second instances are, it is believed that there are two instances that were sent to Solaris 3. Well, technically 3, but we'll get into that. And this is detailed within the note named Resolution K626 that can be found within the modulation hall located in the Tethys Deep. The note mentions a plan to potentially combat the Lament, also known as Plan 3. The concepts of space and time are highly important to the world of Wuthering Waves, and upon the execution phase of this Plan 3 involves the activation of Instance 1 and Instance 2, with their purpose being to assist in controlling time and space. Whoever wrote this note goes on to mention that Instance 2 is a product of their research on the Sonora theory, optimized for spatial control. This instance will have no emotions, since they would be completely unnecessary for her fulfilling her purpose. Sound familiar? Well, that's because we already know the second instance, and we've known this since 1.3. Yep, that's right. Of course, I'm talking about the Shorekeeper, who is literally able to control space. But what about Instance 1? Well, for the longest time, some players speculated that Rover had to be the first instance, but this didn't really ever make that much sense to me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand why people thought this, but the reason why I had my own personal reservations, because although the Rover has obtained many titles and names throughout their travels of Solaris 3, the first instance has never been one of them. And the dialogue in the scene whilst entering the civilization capsule pretty much confirms this, because Imperator specifically refers to the Rover as arbiter, not the first instance. Instead, the first instance is activated within the civilization capsule, but in response to Rover's presence. And who do we see when the first instance is mentioned? The unknown goddess, meaning that it heavily implies that she is in fact the first instance. Back in 1.3, the Shorekeeper tells Rover that she made a vow to the Rover a long time ago. This vow was that she would break the shackles of fate and unravel the Mobius loop that binds Rover, which leads me on to why is Rover and the world in a Mobius loop. But first, let's talk about what exactly a Mobius loop is. The Mobius strip is a band where one side represents time and the other represents space. It appears to have two sides at first glance, however the two sides can meet on opposite sides, forming a loop. The Mobius loop. Time and space run parallel to each other in an infinite loop, but they will never intersect. So if the Shorekeeper is Instance 2, given the task of controlling space, then Instance 1, the unknown goddess, has been given the task of controlling time, which perfectly aligns with her design imagery because, just look at her. She has a literal orbital cycle around her head. But wait, because technically there is a third instance, which is referred to as the Rover. Okay, well, it doesn't exactly state that Rover is the third instance, meaning it doesn't specify Rover with this title, but it does state that Rover is one of three, if that makes sense. Probably not the best way to describe it, but yeah. And this was first shown in the Black Shores teaser. where it shows specific code when deciphered confirms 3 instances: Rover, the Shorekeeper, and an unknown instance, which we now know is the unknown goddess. And this teaser is also where we get the name for the civilization that created these instances, the Hé Civilisation. And they seem to be the main culprits for many of the things we see in Solaris 3 today, like the Tethys system, the Shorekeeper, and the literal moon. Now, if you're interested about learning more about the moon, I did make a video previously about this, so if you're interested, feel free to check it out. As we know, this isn't exactly the Rover's first time in Solaris 3, and we also know that Rover's mind is erased each time for reasons unknown. The role of an arbiter is someone who settles a dispute or has ultimate authority in a matter, basically a judge, which suggests that the fate of Solaris 3 is dependent on the Rover, and potentially their judgment. And if they fail, their memories are reset and they are sent back into Solaris 3 to try again, and Rover is probably being sent back by the unknown goddess, since this is what the opening cinematic suggests. During the 2.7 quest, we are provided with a pretty cool lore bomb, and it involves the login screen. Yep, you heard me, even the login screen has lore. It is revealed that the login screen is actually Rover's mindscape, and let's just say it looks pretty gloomy. And one of the key things to note is that there are many gravestones. Although we recognize the graves of our beloved rinascitan cast, there are many other non-interactive graves there too. And these graves may belong to Rover's previous companions from their previous loops in Solaris 3, with Cristoforo mentioning that those who once stood by your side, you've already let slip away, suggesting Rover had forgotten their previous companions who had assisted them on their journey in the past due to the erasure of their memories and resetting their journey entirely. From the beginning to the end, the Rover has been forced to walk a lonely path. And despite the companions they have made throughout their many journeys throughout Solaris 3, Rover is forced to forget them if they fail, something that which Cristoforo regards as a truth that Rover cannot escape. Now, don't get me wrong, this scene was mostly Cristoforo being Cristoforo, taunting Rover and pushing them to abandon all hope and their humanity. But unfortunately, there is some truth to this idea, which I hate to admit. Because ultimately, if Rover fails yet again, it would all be for nothing. Which begs the question, how many times has Rover failed? And how will this time be different? Which brings me to Abby. Other than being a lovable furball, Abby may be the one thing that Rover needs to break this loop. Abby first appeared while fighting the Dreamless and was used to absorb its frequency. Shortly after, Abby's first instinct is to flock towards the Rover, almost like a baby duck seeing its mother for the first time. The two of them are connected, and the two of them are meant to be with each other, as though it is a law of nature, with Baija calling it a convergent codependency. And if we refer back to the opening cinematic, Abby is activated from Rover's tacit mark, the very tacit mark that was provided to them by the unknown goddess. Potentially as a protector, but also as a partner for the Rover. And in the 2.7 quest, another pretty huge lore bomb is detonated, when Leviathan directly addresses Abby as Abraxas, but also asks why even Abraxas has betrayed them. Them more than likely meaning the Thenodians. The name Abraxas is a term in Gnosticism used to represent wholeness, often used as an ancient charm with the letters in Greek adding up to 365, representing the days of the year. It is portrayed often as a deity known as the Great Archon, a being sometimes described as superior to the Abrahamic god, but also is seen as the symbol of protection against malignant influences. If Abby shares this name, this could mean that their purpose is to help combat the malignant influences lurking in Solaris 3, the Thenodians. There is a common misconception that the name Abraxas was revealed for the first time during 2.7, but actually, this name was really revealed during 1.1. During our first conversation with Abby, they were first revealed as Little One, but this name didn't exactly resonate with Abby. So while pondering on what their name should be, Abby mentions the name Abraxas, thus choosing the name Abby. So why do I think that Abby may be the one thing that Rover needs to achieve their goal? Well, it's simple. Abby has only been active during this loop. And we know this because this is what we learned from the Shorekeeper all the way back in 1.3. When the Shorekeeper sees Abby for the first time, she refers to it as the One, which is totally not ominous at all. The Shorekeeper then immediately shows deep concern for Rover's health, and this is because Abby has been dormant for a long time. Which is why the Shorekeeper was so shocked to see that they had been awakened after all this time. And although Abby appears to be an ally of the Rover in the present, were they an ally originally? And are they truly an ally to all of humanity? I guess only time will tell. And with that being said, I will leave it there for today. Please feel free to let me know in the comments your personal thoughts and theories on what we discussed. And as always, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.